Okay. So we've analyzed over 700 different franchise brands and identified the factors that make them timeless. I'm super excited to share our takeaways today. There are some hot trends that we've seen coming forward in the last 12 months. I'd love for you to tell me what you're noticing.
So the first thing that I've noticed is a continual rise on B2B service brands. I have so much passion for the B2B industry. I grew up in it. My mom co-founded a commercial cleaning brand. And so I love a dirty service brand. I love a B2B concept. And we saw that even in 07, 08, 09, those businesses continued to grow because they're need-based. You know, the CEO is not going to clean the toilet. So they're definitely businesses that people need.
And we made an investment in a B2B service brand this year for all of the reasons that you're talking about. It's recession resistant. It really is something that's innovative. And most importantly, to a lot of people, it's a reoccurring revenue model. And that's a game changer as a business owner. We've referenced recession-resistant businesses a few times, and there's a renewed focus on recession resistance right now because you can't really turn on the news without hearing about it.
You know, during a recession, I think there's another segment outside of B2B that continues to thrive, and that is home services concepts. You know, we're seeing that even when interest rates are up, for example, that people are continuing to make investments, maybe in their existing home. Maybe they don't want to buy that house with a 9% interest rate. So they're going to stay put. They're going to redo the bathrooms. They're going to upgrade their kitchen. You know, we're seeing people that are dual income, time-starved families, and those families want to have their house cleaned. So during that time, they can focus on their family. So home services absolutely are one of those.
We experienced that in both of our households too. There's just only so much time that you have. Another thing that is home services adjacent that unfortunately my family had the opportunity to experience this year is restoration. Mother Nature doesn't care. Your washing machine doesn't care. Your pipes don't care. And guess what? Insurance has to pay. Yeah. And so that's an extremely recession-resistant business that people are really taking advantage of. And so many professionals are getting into that space. While it's considered to be a boring business or a dirty jobs franchise, it's also very consistent revenue.
It is. You know, it doesn't matter what's going on in the economy. Everybody is going to have some type of experience with needing restoration services. So it absolutely is a need. But one of the things that I'm really excited about is brick and mortar is back, baby. People are not afraid to go into something that needs a build out. So we're seeing a huge surge in this. People want to get out of their house. They want to socialize. They don't want to be in a position where they're locked at home anymore. We're far beyond that now. So we're seeing that people want to be in person together again.
I completely agree. Where are you seeing that growth in brick and mortar? What's filling that out a little bit as you kind of think through that?
You know, we historically have seen that beauty has been something that people want to continue to invest in. So I think as we look at brick and mortar, we're looking at some really exciting beauty brands. You know, we're women. We have our hair done. We have our makeup done. We get a spray tan. So we have our nails done. We really love to invest in ourselves with beauty.
Yes.
So beauty brands are one of them. And then health. You know, I think when you think about health, for so long, people thought about fitness and food. But it's so much more than fitness and food. You have to take a holistic approach, whole body approach from mind, body, spirit. If Sierra on our team was here right now, she would tell you that. And I think people are investing in health. What about you? What are you seeing in brick and mortar?
I think health adjacent is wellness. Mm-hmm. And I think we're at right now, we are with wellness where we were with boutique fitness in like 2014. Yeah. We're just on the cutting edge of it. There's a few brands emerging as leaders. People may not be buying the new fancy car. They may not be taking the massive trips, you know, to Europe if they're cutting their budget, but they're having luxuries and taking care of themselves. And making sure that they're well and that they're doing well, whether it's, you know, a meditation studio, a sauna, taking time to have just a practice of their own. we're seeing wellness really, really emerging as an industry right now.
We are. And, thinking about wellness, and I mentioned earlier, thinking about wellness, we talk about food and fitness. I want to take a step back and talk a little bit about food. I cut my teeth in my career working in food franchising, and I'm pretty tough about food. People think franchising, they think food, and I gravitate away from it because I know the challenges. But I think what I'm reinvigorated about, what I'm excited about with food is we're now seeing that there are low cost investment options. And I call it non-food food franchising.
Yes.
And what I mean by that is there's no hoods, ducks, grease, 500 employees, $2 million build outs. So we're seeing that a lot of people are interested in food because there are better options, healthier options, options that help you get out with your family and make memories, get a milkshake together, get a donut together, but small team, low overhead. So I'm really excited about some of the new food stuff that's coming out.
Food is interesting. When you say non-food food, the other thing that we can't ignore is food traditionally has sub 10% margins. And
Right.
some of the non-food food, we're seeing as high as into the 80%. And yes, we said that over 80%
Yes.
EBITDA. And then we're also seeing things that are, above 20 very consistently, which is massive for food. And we've seen in recessions, they traditionally perform. People have to eat. People are going to take care of themselves. I lived through that in 08 and 09, as did you. We were both in those industries during the last major recession. I was in health and wellness franchising. You were present in the food business, and both of those businesses thrived during the last recession. So there's proof in the pudding. And I would be remiss, as would you, to not talk about kids and pets.
Oh, yes.
So no matter what the budget cuts are, no matter how many things you have to take off of your own plate, I'm not going to let my kids or my pets suffer on account of my budget. So we see the kid business and the pet business being very insulated in any kind of economy, and also continuing to grow so rapidly as people are investing in those.
I think they call me a dinkwad, if I'm not mistaken.
I do all the time. Dinkwad.
Dual income, no kids with a dog. I think I got that right. Dinkwad. My husband and I do not have children, but we rescue miniature senior dachshunds, and it's a passion of mine. One day I'm going to have a whole farm of them if my husband lets me. But I would do anything for those dogs. I love them, and as they age, they need more. And we have invested in them, going to the vet, having a great dog sitter. They get groomed regularly. They have treats. They have walkers. everything. So they're my babies, since I don't have human babies. And so I'm not the only one.
No.
You have 2 dogs.
I do.
You do anything for them on top of your kids.
Yes.
And so that takes me to your son, who you would do anything for.
Well, people always talk about how expensive daycare is, right?
Right.
Daycare is so expensive. And
Yeah.
I'm like, have you ever looked for an athletic trainer for a 10-year-old?
Yeah.
There's so many things that they're asking. Kids want different things now.
Yes.
I wouldn't have dreamed of asking my parents to have a coach for this or a tutor for that or all of those different things. Kids, it's a different level. It really is. And you want to support them in whatever their passions are. And I would give anything for a daycare bill back.
Right.
Because me and our older kids, more expensive too. Not daycares and preschools are another thing that will always insulate the economy. So there's a lot of stuff with pets and kids.
Yep. I really do. I believe that people will go without, as parents, whether human parents, pet parents, both, to be able to provide for those that they love. So, Sam, when we think of franchises, we often think of mature brands. Every other intro call that I get on, someone says, I'd love to have a Chick-fil-A. I'd love to have a Chick-fil-A. Brings up McDonald's, brings up Subway. These are mature brands. We have a mix. We have emerging brands. We have mature brands. How are the brands that we work with staying current? How are they keeping up with times?
Well, franchises are typically at the forefront of technological advances for a few reasons. They have the capital, but there's also franchisees in their ear. We need this. We need that. Have you seen this? Have you seen that? We're paying you this. We need to make sure we're keeping up. And I do think of a brand that we have in our inventory that is typically not something you would think of when you think of technological brands, but it's a garage floor concept. But they've incorporated AI into their sales process, and it's increased their closing rates dramatically. They also have a visualization tool that allows people to see what their home is going to look like ahead of time. So instead of, someone like me, I have to see it to believe it. And so being able to see that, I'm more likely to say, okay, well, yeah, we probably do have to have the cabinetry, or we probably do have to have that. So they're keeping up in industries that aren't technology, but they're adding that in. And those mature brands need that.
They do. And mature brands need it. They typically can afford to, right? As a franchisor, they can afford to be able to have this technology for their franchisees. And I think that is one of the advantages of being a franchisee versus being an independent business owner without a support of a franchisor. Because mom and pops oftentimes don't have the capital to make the investment in a lot of this technology. And one of the things that as we talk about technology that I think is important to note is not only on the franchisee side are they looking for technology to help them grow their business, but also we're seeing that consumers have changed. Consumers want technology. They want convenience. We just talked about how busy we are, right? We talked about the fact that we're time starved, that we put our extra time into our kids and our pets and our parents and all of that.
Yes.
So what are some of the conveniences that we're seeing?
Well, I think the first thing that we look at is app-based technology. You look at the Starbucks of the world, the Chick-fil-A's, the Crumbles, Jersey Mike's. When I'm placing an order, I'm going in and I'm placing it all ahead of time. I'm grabbing it or I'm having it delivered to my house.
Right.
Not that I don't want human interaction at all. It's just that it's the convenience factor of that. And then I think the other side of it too is when I'm booking, I think of Club Pilates, which is a franchise that I utilize. I can go in, I can book my class, I can cancel a class, get on a wait list. I can do that all online. It's super easy. I don't have to get on the phone, wait for somebody to answer, try to do that. It's right there. And if I can't do it, I don't necessarily want to be a patron of that business.
We do. We like convenience. I talked a lot about my dogs. And one of the things that I look at with my dogs is I'm getting them groomed. I need it to be more convenient. Because right now my experience is I drop off my dogs. I have no idea when they'll be ready. Could be 2 hours, could be 6 hours. Like, how do you plan your day around that, right? And so we have a really cool brand right now that's kind of creating a Domino's app, but for dogs. Yeah. So with the Domino's app, you place your order online and then you can see, the tracking of where they put it into the oven and, when it's being quality checked and when it's on the way to you. So this app is that, but for grooming dogs. So I drop off my dog and I can follow along to know when my dog is being, bathed versus blown out versus getting their hair cut versus when I need to be on the way to pick them up. So it's incredible what franchisors are building with technology.
Yeah, if you would have told me, I used to love grocery shopping. You know that. I used to love to go to the grocery store and browse the aisles and pick things up. I have probably been to a grocery store a half a dozen times in the last 4 years because I do everything online now. And this is what we're seeing from a consumer standpoint. We're looking at brands that are keeping up and leveraging the technology. And we want that in not just for the consumers, but in ops and in marketing and in strategy. So I think of a brand that I worked with previously, and they were founded in the 90s. 90% of their marketing was done by putting ads in the mail. So you're getting these flyers. And if they wouldn't have evolved past that, franchisees would never be able to find clients because are you making any decisions based on flyers that you get in the mail? So franchisors have to continue to evolve or they die.
And, as we look at what franchisors are doing, what are they doing for their franchisees? They are building better marketing widgets.
Yes.
But they're also building technology that allows their sales process, the estimate, the operations side of a business to be more seamless. There's a roofing concept that I've placed clients into that I love because they've figured out how to make it easier for the consumer that needs a new roof. So they actually use drone footage. So they go out with the drones, they're able to take that 360 view of the home and then share it with the customer. Traditional estimates now in roofing are just a couple of photos and you hope that they're accurate, but now they're up there taking videos. And what I love is those drone videos now can be submitted to insurance companies. So that helps speed up the process for the customer too, because nobody loves dealing with insurance.
No.
So we're seeing that that is a huge value as well.
That's a massive value. And I think it's something that you're not seeing from mom and pops again. So that franchisor is continually adding value. And for us, our clients, about 90% of them are executives. Mm-hmm. They plan on being semi-passive. They plan on having somebody in place managing that, but they also need that training to be something that they can do online. And there needs to be modules and training and a lot of different things. And it's really helpful when franchisors are able to put all of their training modules and all of those different things into an online platform so that they can experience that there.
And when we think about, semi-absentee owners, they have to be able to keep their fingers on the pulse because most of our clients have jobs or they're already seasoned business folks, right? They have multiple businesses. They're not going to be in there day in, day out. So we love brands that have dashboards. So they always know, where they're at. You can be in Bora Bora. You can be at your job. You can be at your kid's soccer game and you know what's going on. You don't have to worry. There's trackers and vehicles for their employees. So there's so much technology that they're able to leverage to make sure that their business is where it needs to be.
Yeah, if you can't track it, you can't train it, you can't keep up with it. And
absolutely.
It's absolutely important that franchisors provide those dashboards. Now, Britt, we've talked about the last 12 months, what we've seen, what's happened. But what do you think we're going to see over the next 12 months?
Honestly, I think a lot of it's going to be similar. I think people will continue to invest in the people that they love. Pets, kids, and parents. I always say that. Pets, kids, parents. So I think we're going to see that. I also think we'll continue to see a need and a demand for B2B service-based businesses.
Yes.
Dirty jobs that nobody else wants to do. And then I think we'll continue to see a lot in the home services space too.
I couldn't agree more. We're also going to see, my dad always says something, riches are in the niches.
Yes.
And I think we're going to continue to see clients getting into specific spaces that are underserved or they're served a little bit, but there's so much room for market penetration. Mm-hmm. And I think of a brand that we have right now that's in our inventory, and it's kind of a spin off of massage. It's focusing on digestion and lymphatic drainage. And so while massage is this massive player that people recognize from franchising, this is a concept that is a spin-off of that that's so specific, and we've just seen it blow up in the markets that it's in already. So we're going to continue to see that stuff from concepts that people understand niche down.
And earlier you talked about, needing restoration services, right? You're with your laundry machine. I moved into my house and literally 4 weeks later, my hot water heater broke and flooded my whole bottom level. 4 weeks after buying the house. And the challenge for us was we just bought all of this new furniture. We just moved everything in. So we had all this content that also needed coverage. So when we think of traditional restoration, we're thinking about the remediation of the walls, the drywall, all of that. But then there are people's stuff that you love, right? The chair that was passed down from grandma, the new couch that you save for. We're seeing again that riches are in the niches concept, that now there are players in restoration that they're taking care of the stuff that people love.
That's so true. And that brings me to one in the kids space because, we talk about kids a lot. There's a shortage of teachers. There's no way to get around that. And we have a brand right now that is taking over physical education in preschools, in private schools, and now in public schools so that people with teaching degrees can go back and be in the classroom. And I think that's also something to think about is in every single arena, things are evolving and changing. And schools are no exception.
They aren't. And, the last thing that I want to make sure we hit on again, and I oversay it, but dirty jobs that people don't want to do, jobs that are needed, that's going to continue. You know, if your toilet doesn't work, you got to have that taken care of, right? Like, this is not optional. You have to take care of these things. So we have a brand that we love that's focused on drains. And so it's a lot of work that traditional plumbers won't do. Drains and sewage, these are things that we see that we need. And I think that will continue to really show as a need-based market in the coming years.
I completely agree. Niches are awesome because they're underserved. And a lot of times people that are in the industry are willing to pass that off because they don't have the bandwidth and they're busy enough doing things, or maybe they feel like it's not as profitable as their main business. And so they pass it off, and it's a highly profitable business when done correctly. Now, I love talking about trends. I love talking about predictions. I love getting my crystal ball out and doing all of those things. But I want to talk about fear. I want to talk about really how it can be a deterrent, how it can be a motivator if you let it be either. We see fear. And the worst case scenario for people going into business ownership is failure. What if I lose my money? What if I lose my time? What happens to me?
And the thing that I really love about franchising, and I was raised by two entrepreneurs. My dad wasn't in franchising and my mom was. And the reason I followed the franchise path is I am more analytical. So I do like to mitigate risk wherever I can. And what we see is statistically over 90% of franchise businesses succeed. So I really think having that system, that process, that support helps mitigate that risk.
Absolutely. One thing we ask our clients is, if you're thinking about the idea of owning a business in your current life, where do you stack up to your peers? Are you above average? Are you below average? Do you view yourself as an average Joe? And the reason we ask that isn't to find out, how self-involved they are. It's when you're looking at franchising, it's a law of averages, right? You have the success rates that you talked about, and then you have all of the financial data that's in there, and you get the medians, you get the averages, you get all of those things. So in order to help them understand that, I'm going to say, if you're thinking about where your peers are at in any given place, how do you stack up there?
And the other thing that I always talk about when I talk about fear is everyone feels that the job is the secure path. But the reality is your job can quit you at any time. You could walk into your boss's office tomorrow and be let go. Whether it's layoffs, whether it's due to performance, whether it's they have a buddy that they want to bring in to replace you, right? So your job could leave you at any time. But with business ownership, you get to determine that path for yourself. You, at the end of the day, have the control. So I always ask people, what if you don't start? What's the consequence there? What if you never take that leap? What if you don't start and become a business owner?
Yeah, the best time to start a business is 5 years ago. The second best time is today, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And we see that a lot. And we've talked a lot about industries and trends today. But what we really help our clients do is truly twofold. You have to make sure that you have the time, and you have to make sure that you have the capital, but you also have to make sure you are ready to work. Britney Spears said it. Are you ready to work? So it's really about timing and motivation more than it's about anything. What's actually right for you? It's more than just industry driven, for sure.
It is. It's so much more than just being industry driven. And we help people identify, number one, is the time right for them? And then if it is the right time, that's what I say on every call. I say, first and foremost, is franchising for you? Because it's not a good fit for everybody. If you're the ideas guy, if you love building something from scratch, if you don't like systems, you don't like support, franchising may not be right for you. Secondarily, we help them figure out, is now a right time? Do you have enough capital? Do you have enough capacity in your schedule? And then from there, that's how we make the match. And, I don't mean for this to sound harsh, but I also want to tell people, be careful who you take advice from, right? Because if you are turning to someone that has never owned a business, who's never had the guts to kind of take that leap themselves, be careful who you're turning to for advice. You want to call on people that have walked the walk, have written the checks, who've been in the shoes, be careful who you turn to for advice.
I completely agree. We see that a lot with our clients. They're saying, oh, my uncle whose business failed in 1984 was telling me that he doesn't think franchising is great. Or my friend watched a special on Subway and they said that there were 4,000 of them in one block. And that means that my pet food franchise is not going to make it. And that's simply not the case. So you have to follow the process. That's the other thing that you have to trust the process. And that sounds like such a cliched thing to say, but don't get ahead of yourself. You need to take learning about franchises in bite-sized pieces. And even more importantly, don't get in your own way. People get in their own way so consistently, stumbling over their own feet when they're looking at franchising, thinking of all of the worst case scenarios, that sometimes you just have to trust your gut.
You do. You have to trust your gut because at the end of the day, that typically doesn't fail you. And I'm a big believer of if you have gone through the process, if you've done your due diligence, if you know that you've checked those boxes to make a well-educated decision, you're never going to be 100% of the way there. Having a little bit of fear is healthy, but trust your gut at the end of the day. You know what's right for you as an adult who's had a lot of success in your life. So trust your gut.
And you know it's not right for you. And sometimes at the end, as we're going through the process, it's okay to say, I don't think this is the right time for me. I don't think this is the right fit for me. Now is not. This is a business marriage. And we tell clients a lot, I don't know if this is the right time. You're having trouble making it to a 30-minute call with me once a week. Do you have enough time to own a business? Are you prioritizing this the way that you need to? And that's important too, to know, even if we're going through this process, the end goal for us isn't that you are awarded a franchise necessarily. It's whether it's the right time and if you're the right fit to be awarded a franchise. And so I think just as we look at what we've talked about today and we summarize for everybody, we've learned a lot about what we've seen in the last year and what we see coming up. We really think we're going to see an uptick in kids, pets, wellnesses, and then all essential services and B2B services, certainly.
And I think we'll continue to see that need and demand for technology being leveraged. I think franchisees are demanding it to help them improve in their business operationally and in customer acquisition and marketing. And I think consumers are also demanding it for that, time-starved family that wants to be able to order in an app or check in into a gym class online. So I think technology will be huge.
And at the end of the day, it's the client's decision, right? Whether they're moving forward, whether now's the right time. But the way that our process is established, it's going to help them really get a handle on that. Is now the right time? Do we have the right brand in front of you? So the decision is yours at the end of the day, but we urge you, follow the process.
And, as we look into next year, we expect certain trends to continue. And that first one, again, I think is just a passion for recession-resistant businesses. I think that's going to continue. I think people love the idea of having that comfort that something can be more recession-resistant. So that's number one. The need for home services will continue to thrive. People are having more children. The population is growing, right? You've got to have places to put these people. And then we're also seeing that, interest rates are higher, so people are staying put. You're needing these services. And then I truly think B2B will continue to lead the pack in a segment that our clients are excited about and looking for.
Yeah, and I think we're also going to see in marketing and client acquisition from franchisors a ton of AI utilization.
Oh, yeah.
We've seen the uptick in that. I think ChatGPT is the number one most growing company in the last 12-month period. So that's just an interesting thing in and of itself. And then the number one fear of franchisees is, how am I going to get clients? What am I going to do? So utilizing micro influencers and different lead generation technology by franchisors is going to be really, really key for franchisors to attract the type of talent that they want on the business ownership side, certainly.
And we're continuing to see that people don't know what's going to happen in the market. right? That's a big question mark. What's going to happen in the stock market? So what we're excited about is educating people on the fact that this can be looked at as an investment. You are not buying yourself a job. This is an investment to diversify their portfolio, and our clients are thrilled to be able to do just that.
And I think if you're investing in anything, you know, as I look at my portfolio, as I examine real estate, you get an expert involved. I'm not an expert in real estate. I'm not an expert in finance and the market and trading and doing all of those things. So I have an expert in those things when I'm investing. And we're invested in a little bit of everything too. But if you're looking at investing in franchising, you need an expert guiding you through. You need somebody that has walked the walk. You need a person that understands saturation levels, different markets throughout the United States, and all the nuances of owning a business. And you need someone you can trust. And so I would implore people, if you're Googling or if you're online and you're looking at whatever website to try to figure out what business is right for you, lean in, get an expert. We would be happy to work with you.